off we go on a Monday. It's the 29th. It's not a victory Monday either. I got to slip that in there just in case you guys weren't aware. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. It is the 29th of September. It will be week 5 of this NFL season after Monday Night Football finishes up later tonight. I'm Bobby Trossett. This is Sarah Ellison, and today's brought to you by our friends at Gundry, Maryland. We'll have more on them in just a bit, but just know there are some VAULTRON incentives for you in Owings Mills, Maryland, where their state-of-the-art facility is located. Code VAULTSIM. That's promo code VAULT SIM. Gets you 25% off all of their simulator experiences for the next few weeks. So we'll have more on Gundry in just a bit. We appreciate them for their continued support of the program. Partner, we got a jam-packed show as we always do the day after a game. Has John Harbaugh lost his Ravens locker room? We'll discuss a report from the Baltimore Banner here in just a couple of moments. Todd Monken straight up called out by John Harbaugh and his play calling post-game last night. We'll share our thoughts. Adam Schefter on ESPN this morning shared an update on Lamar Jackson's hamstring, and we know where they are right now, Sarah, as from a health perspective. It is bare bones. They're at a crossroads, and I don't know what is going to come and save them miraculously right now other than the folks that look back at them in the mirror, and that is the Ravens themselves. So we're glad you're with us on this Monday. We'll get to as many super chats as possible. Thanks to Gundry and partner. We should probably get into a report that dropped late last night from Gianna Hahn of the Baltimore Banner because, as you put it in our title here, it's rather concerning.
Yeah, it is kind of concerning to see, all of these guys. There's a lot of guys that didn't really want to talk to media. The way Gianna kind of sets up the whole locker room scene, it's coming off of that terrible win where we already saw bad body language. It wasn't a good look. So I think before we react to it, a lot of people may not have read it or heard it. So what I'll go ahead and do is read like the most pertinent parts, and then we can react on the other side. But the headline for the Baltimore Sun is decimated locker room, has few leaders to answer questions on or off the field. So here's what it looked like from the reporters' perspectives, including Gianna. Lamar sat alone in his corner of the locker room, rubbing his leg. No one approached him. The Ravens don't allow the media to question players who were injured in the game. Most of the teammates were gone well before the majority of the media contingent returned from the press conferences to ask players what happened in the embarrassing 37-20 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. But if you had made it in right as the locker room doors opened, you still would have struggled to find leaders to answer questions in the quiet room. Starting Pro Bowl cornerback Marlon Humphrey, who candidly called the defense out for being immature after the Week 1 loss to the Buffalo Bills. Just a note, that was John Harbaugh called them immature, and he relayed what John Harbaugh said. But moving along, she says that Marlon Humphrey was the first one out before the doors opened, but he also left the game with a calf injury. Again, there's a policy for the Ravens long before this game that media members do not talk to injured players. Okay, but who was not injured? She says wide receiver, number 1, Pro Bowler, Zay Flowers, was the second one out of the locker room right behind Humphrey. He was not injured in the game. Pro Bowl linebacker Roquan Smith, who is often called the leader of the defense, was the third one out. He suffered a hamstring injury. But, she says, he's also been long gone before the media can ask questions in every one of the Ravens' losses. When the doors opened, the Ravens media is allowed in once John Harbaugh takes the podium if they are not attending the press conference. When the doors opened, she said, most of the players were sitting shirtless. Some were quietly conversing. Others looked stunned. Wide receiver Rashad Bateman was the only one dressed. The Ravens media is only allowed to interview dressed players. His answers were blunt. So far, all they've got is Rashad Bateman. Then she says rookie safety Malachi Starks was the only active player dressed on the defensive side after Bateman's interview. He has only 4 NFL games of experience, but he did his best to explain what went wrong in this past game and all others. Once Starks was finished, outside linebacker Odafe Owe was dressed. With Pro Bowler Kyle Van Noy out, Owe is the most experienced outside linebacker in the room. And with all the starting defensive linemen injured, He's the most successful pass rusher. But even Owe declined to answer questions. So it was outside linebacker Tavius Robinson who answered the questions. Finally, she says Pro Bowl safety Kyle Hamilton spoke at the podium after the game, and he handled it with aplomb. But the other leaders of the defense denied interviews or were gone and or injured. They left players such as Robinson, John Jenkins, the rookies of Starks and Keon Martin to answer questions. With all the injuries, those will be the players having to figure out all the answers on the field as well. So, Bobby, we have to give passes for now to those that were injured. Marlon, Lamar, Roquan, they were all injured, and they're not allowed to talk. Although, little asterisk with Roquan because he, according to Gianna, he keeps leaving in all the losses. Zay Flowers, Odafe Owe. Come on, guys. You're two of the leaders that are left. Derrick Henry, he was out there. He answered questions, but then you got all these rookies. You got these rookies and undrafted rookies answering the questions. No leaders to answer. So the question is then, Bobby, off of all of this, does that scene, nobody there talking poorly about their coaches because nobody was talking. This defeated, no fight, kind of lifeless locker room. Does that indicate that John Harbaugh is losing the locker room per se in terms of like, is there any fight left in these guys? Is there anything where anybody can stand up and say, hey, I'm the leader. I'll go ahead and answer these questions outside of Kyle Hamilton, who is supposed to be a legit leader. And he did come. He apologized. We went over that last night. But are you losing kind of the locker room with all these spirits so low?
It certainly suggests that there's a fracture. And we've seen signs of that twice now in the last week. It feels like a month ago, Sarah, that they got it handed to them by the Detroit Lions, but it was just a week ago tonight. It hasn't even been a full week. And yet this team has endured two of the worst losses, I would think the worst losses of the Lamar Jackson tenure in under a week in a 6-day period. And so while to your point, passes should be given out in terms of media availability post-game to those that are not injured, because that is, or excuse me, to those that are injured, because that is policy, as Gianna noted. This isn't a good look. Kyle Hamilton has risen to the occasion. He's held himself accountable. It was a dual apology, to your point, that we shared on last night's post-game show. But this is a locker room where all signs on the outside looking in are pointing to they're lacking identity. They're lacking a collective accountability. They're lacking fight. And quite frankly, are they lacking belief right now? Like, that might be the most damning aspect of it all. Are they lacking belief in Baltimore? And if that's the case, that is, I think, a telltale sign, an indication, suggestion, whatever you want to call it, that John Harbaugh is in danger of either losing or has already lost his locker room 4 weeks into this season, 2 weeks prior to the bye. And that ultimately is an indictment on the coaching.
Bobby, this team, not just because of this locker room report, but on top of everything else we've seen, which is frustration, anger, body language from Lamar Jackson through 2 games straight. Derrick Henry literally crashed out last week against the Lions, almost fell off the bench on the sideline. I do appreciate Derrick Henry. He has not had the start of the season that he wanted. He shows up every single time. So we do appreciate that. But he was crashing out. You've got, according to Gianna, your defensive leader ducking out after every single Ravens loss. Bobby, this to me, and this is a new version of a team that we were already worried had confidence issues, dating back to when Odafe Owe was on Sirius XM radio over the offseason and said, hey, we just have to tell ourselves that we're good enough. Like, that is not language you want to hear in a football team. And he said that in the context of playoffs. So not only have they not gotten mentally tougher over the offseason, It seems to me after 4 weeks of the season, they're mentally broken, save a few leaders. They appear mentally broken when you're already frustrated on your second drive against the Lions, or you're already, showing signs of panic when you don't score again after your first drive. And so when you have a mentally broken team and we have coaches that don't seem to have answers schematically, or for John Harbaugh, who's the big culture guy, getting answers to get these guys to have some fight in them. And then on top of it, now you've got injuries piling up. It seems to me that this locker room has the same sense that we have, which is that you didn't just lose a game, but you lost 10 starters, many of whom could be back. You've lost your will. You've lost your pride. And it does seem like they've lost their belief, like a lot of us on the outside, which is why you have the Ravens fan base saying that this needs to be blown up and new coaches need to be brought in. And so Damian Woody on Get Up was asked this morning, hey, do the Ravens still have Super Bowl aspirations? I kind of chuckled to myself. And I think the guys in the locker room might chuckle because it feels like the guys inside have lost hope the way Damian Woody has. Here he's on Get Up this morning.
Ravens, are they a Super Bowl contender?
No. I think like for me, I don't see the Ravens in that conversation. I think they're done. I think the Ravens are done. At 1-3, yes, the Ravens with the great Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, I feel like they're done. And it primarily speaks to what you've been talking about, Rex, on the defensive side of football. Did we see them make improvements last year when they moved the safety to back to his original position? Kyle Hamilton. When he moved back originally, they made improvements. But there's no one coming to save them on the defensive side of the football. Okay? There's no personnel or any scheme that can save the Ravens from bad tackling, not being in the right place at the right time. And, oh, by the way, your quarterback is hurt with a hamstring injury. Okay? Taking away the most valuable part of his game, which is his legs.
Ravens are done, according to Damian Woody. I got to tell you, if they weren't mentally broken and I felt like, hey, they'll come back from the injuries, I'd be like, Damian's jumping off too soon. But it feels like the players have already jumped off with Damian. So how do you have hope if the players don't have hope?
Well, like you said, they're broken, and usually the phrase is bruised and broken. You said broken. I was going to say, well, broken and bruised. No, it's bruised and broken. And as you can see on the screen right now, you've already alluded to it, right? They had several players that weren't even available due to injury leading into this Kansas City game. Nnamdi Madubuike and Broderick Washington, Sarah, we know, for the next 4 weeks, unavailable on injured reserve. Kyle Van Noy, I saw Jeff tweeting pregame that he was out there working out, but ultimately was scratched prior to the game with that hamstring. Travis Jones, questionable going in, ruled out with the knee. Pat Ricard continues to be unavailable. And wow, is there a lack of clarity from John Harbaugh in that situation in terms of what Pat's timetable is with that calf? And then, of course, in game, we all watched it unfold. Lamar, Ronnie, Roquan, Marlon, and Nate all leave with their injuries. Here is the latest from Adam Schefter on Lamar's hamstring earlier this morning.
Maybe the most important storyline coming out, Shefty, the hamstring of Lamar Jackson. What do we know?
The game was out of hand, so we're not sure whether they took him out because the game wasn't close and they were resting him, or whether this is the type of hamstring injury, as many are, that can sideline Lamar Jackson a week or two. Now, let's keep in mind, the Ravens play the Texans this upcoming week. They have one more game, and then they have a bye.
Right.
So that could enter in depending on how that hamstring is. But hamstrings, it's a strain. They're muscles. They're tough to predict. They'll see how he's doing during the week, gauge it, and we'll see whether Lamar Jackson can bounce back next week for a team that needs him, for a defense that's failing them. Lamar Jackson's been pressing. There's a lot of things right now that Baltimore has to work through, but none may be bigger than that hamstring.
For sure.
So Schefter calling it a hamstring strain. I believe I've seen Mike Florio say the same. Bobby, I've seen lots of, it's definitely fans from other fan bases saying that, Lamar Jackson quit on the team. I don't think that's in Lamar Jackson's DNA. Do I think that Lamar Jackson's frustrated? Do I think that Lamar Jackson's a bit fed up? Absolutely, 100%. But do I think that Lamar Jackson would – we saw him after the game, the TV cameras, when he was giving high fives to Kansas City Chiefs. He had a limp. Multiple reporters said they saw him in the locker room with a limp. And then there's also this from Jeff Darlington of the NFL Network. He was out there and he saw Lamar. He said, watching Lamar slowly limp to the team buses after the game, I'd have a hard time believing he could have entered the game, even if it was closer. Not to suggest any level of seriousness, but this exit was clearly more than precautionary based off of what Jeff Darlington saw of Lamar Jackson. So this will be very interesting because, as they noted with the schedule, the Ravens have 2 more games until their bye. The Texans are 1-3, just like the Ravens. That's who's up next, and then the Rams, and then they have their bye. If Lamar Jackson is indeed having who knows what grade of a strain he's got on the hamstring, but they may decide, hey, maybe for 2 weeks, miss 2 weeks of games, plus you got the bye, there's 3 weeks. Or, again, like Jeff said, he's not implying any seriousness. If it's not that serious, maybe he can come back and play against the Texans, another 1-3 team, and start to claw back into this and suddenly get your team at 2-3 and then maybe 3-3 before the bye. So I'm not going to question Lamar Jackson's dedication to the game. But I get the questions. There. But according to Jeff, what he saw is Lamar could not have gone back in the game.
Guy named Jonathan Adams on X caught this video that I'm about to pull in, and there's audio attached to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that in just a second here. So bear with me. But this is sideline camera footage from an iPhone of the game ending and Lamar and the Ravens going over to, of course, do handshakes post-game with the Chiefs. So just take a look at the limp. Take a look at the pronounced limp from Lamar Jackson. Go ahead and mute this right here and maybe even blow it up a little bit. Again, this is courtesy of John D. Adams on X. Zone in on number 8 there. He's clearly laboring.
Yep.
I'll go ahead and just get rid of the banner here for a second. So again, the pronounced limp is more so when he just starts to walk and hop off the bench there in the beginning. So I'll kind of cut back to like this part of the clip right here. So anyway, for those of you that were looking for a little bit more concrete evidence, if you will, in terms of how Lamar looked and how he was walking or not walking in this case, very well, then here it is, sideline footage courtesy of a fan that was in attendance.
Yeah, and so that's going to be massive. It's all of these. John Harbaugh will be speaking again today. I highly doubt he's going to give much information, but listen, if the Ravens were 2-2 or 3-1 and they had all these injuries, and you could be like, okay, well, maybe just for 2 games until you get to the bye, they can kind of like weather the storm until the bye, and then a few of these guys could be back. Again, if John Harbaugh is right, then none of them are season enders. A lot of these seem like, muscle injuries, and the muscle ones get worse with time, right? Like when you're warmed up and you're moving, like your muscles can feel better. And then that's why you get sore later after a game. You like feel sore later. So it'll be interesting to see where he and many of these guys are at. Was Matabike, I believe, was a hamstring, or not Matabike. Roquan was a hamstring. So it's just like, here's the thing though, is if the majority of these guys need to be out for the next 2 weeks and you're already 1-3, like I'm with Damian. I've already kissed the Super Bowl hopes goodbye. I just don't think the Ravens can compete with the AFC's elite, but you may just want to, go ahead and say, okay, well, goodbye to the AFC North. And maybe this season, if some of these guys can't get back and try to get this team back to 3-3 before the bye, I know some fans are already well beyond that. They've already given up on the entire season. But that's kind of where we're at. If some of these guys can't get back by the bye, then you're looking at perhaps 1-5, and that's almost insurmountable.
For sanity purposes, I would encourage fans to take it in pockets right now. Break it up into segments and know that right now the Super Bowl conversation should be a complete irrelevant point at the moment.
We're not talking about Super Bowl around here anymore.
Right? That should be a completely irrelevant subject of conversation at the moment. And right now it should be about the 2-week stretch leading into a very early bye week that they desperately need. And they desperately need to go into that bye week at 500. And there is a real chance that they will have to do that without Lamar for at least a game. We don't know. Who knows? Who knows? A hamstring strain? We'll have to learn more about that. Feels like a week-to-week thing, but that's just speculation. No clue. So if you look at it in segments, it's like the Ravens have to scratch and claw in likely a depleted form, knowing that at least some of this graphic up on the screen in terms of personnel won't be available for the next 2 weeks leading into that bye. And if you can somehow, some way get to that bye week at 500 football and give yourself that bye week of rest so that a percentage of these 10 that you're seeing up on the screen have a chance to come back for the home game against Chicago coming out of the bye, then maybe, just maybe, you can get back to a wild card conversation. But right now, the AFC North division and the Super Bowl, completely irrelevant topic of conversation in my mind, which is wild to say after 4 weeks of football.
Here's the problem is even if a percentage of these guys were back for the Texans or at the LA Rams, here's the problem is when these guys were healthy, especially on the defensive side, they were playing like it was like they were a JV squad in high school. And so you need more than just injured players to come back.
Yeah.
So if the Ravens want to like corral a segment of their fans back, not only do they have to get healthy, but moves and changes need to be made in the coaching ranks too. We are going to do a read with Gundry and go to Super Chats first. But on the other side of this, we're going to be talking about the coaching from John Harbaugh to Todd Monken on the offensive side to Zach Orr on the defensive side, because it's not going to be enough just to get Lamar back. It's not going to be enough just to get Roquan and Marlon back. They've been playing terrible with them. If there were any signs of hope, if they wanted the Ravens fans to be with them, it's injuries plus coaching changes that people are going to need to see.
I concur on that. No pushback whatsoever. And it seems as if that's a universal sentiment being shared within this fan base the day after the Ravens slipped to 1-3. We appreciate you guys for being with us on this Reaction Monday. There's a lot to get to, of course, related to these Ravens, and we will continue to do so, as Sarah said, in just a bit. Thanks to Gundry for the continued support of our program. If you're not familiar with Gundry, Maryland, they are a state-of-the-art training and recreational facility in Owings Mills, Maryland. We're talking about 86,000 square feet with 46 different lanes. It offers the size and amenities of a country club, but it's open to the public. Their mission is pretty simple: safety, education, and training for all skill levels, from beginners all the way up to professionals. And right now, for the next few weeks, we're going to be telling you about what they have going on in the world of simulation. Sarah, there's simulators. We've talked about this before because I feel like your kids, particularly your boys, would be fired up to get involved with one of these simulators. And right now, at Gundry, Maryland, in Owings Mills, code VAULTSIM, that is code VAULTSIM, will get you 25% off simulators, whether it be a game day activity. Doesn't even have to be a Sunday or any other day a game is played. They are willing to honor that code for the next few weeks at Gundry, so it's a little of incentive there for our Vaultrons. The Virtua 300-degree immersive simulator has 200-plus scenarios for defensive training, I should say, and family-friendly fun. You've got the multi-sport room featuring baseball, pitching, football, soccer, hockey, and more. If you visit the show notes and or the pinned comment right now in our live chat, this all is broken down for you. Here's the Virtua simulator that I just talked about right now. Again, that 300-degree screen with over 200 scenarios. We'll show you a live video from their TikTok feed in just a second to show you just how interactive it is. This is the multi-sport simulator that I think the Ellison kids would probably never want to leave. Had they had a chance to go
I don't
do
know
it,
if I would want to leave the sports simulator. I could do that all day. Go back to my childhood days.
right? Work on that golf swing of yours. How about it?
Oh.
So there's so many different options. Football, soccer, baseball, hockey, frisbee, and cornhole would be a fun pregame day activity, assuming that you want to probably be on your couches watching Ravens football. What about the Big Shot Archery Simulator? So on and so forth. This website is super easy to work your way through. And again, as promised, wanted to give you a quick little snapshot. This is courtesy of the Gumtree TikTok account. And let me make sure
It'll come up.
that I go ahead and throw that up here. And this is from the Gumtree, Maryland TikTok account, which we have directly linked, by the way, in our show notes. You talk about interactive,
That feels so real.
right?
Wow.
So
We did not do great there.
there you have it. A lot of fun. A lot of fun to be had. Gumtree, Maryland. That's a look at the Virtra simulator. We want to say thanks to them for their continued support. And again, hopefully, Sarah, folks come out to Owings Mills, Maryland in the next few weeks. 25% off with code VAULTSIM. Gets you 25% off all of their simulator experiences. So again, I think those Ellison kids will be loving it.
Yeah, I don't know, especially with them getting into golf and all those things, all the games, lunch. You're going to spend a whole day there for sure.
And I got to say, just one final reminder in the show notes, you've got direct social links if you want to learn more about what's going on at Gumtree, Maryland, Facebook. They have their own YouTube account, Instagram, TikTok, which we just showed you some of that video that I ripped off the account. So all that and more going on in Owings Mills, not far whatsoever away from one winning drive, which has to be an interesting place on a day like today, Sarah, knowing that the Ravens are reeling at 1-3. We're going to get to what Todd Monken, how his name came up in a post-game press conference last night by John Harbaugh in just a bit. But first, to Super Chats we go. Minx the Cutie has become our newest channel member. And Lewis, Sarah, rocking his VAULTRON gear as he always does, drops in our first Super Chat of the day.
So just going to listen today, but grateful for you both. Hashtag down, but not out member of the VAULTRON Nation. Love you all. Hang tough, Raven Nation. Could be worse.
Thanks, Lewis. Kobe Pruitt drops in a 50 burger to get the day started with that magenta background. And Kobe writes, I woke up today thinking about a quote from JFK where he said, quote, victory has 1,000 fathers, but defeat is an orphan. Then I read the Baltimore Banner article and knew it perfectly described this team. You can't call yourself a leader and not lead. You know, Cam Newton, Sarah, on Friday on First Take, looked at the camera right in the eye and said, will the real Baltimore Ravens please stand up? And while it was kind of for entertainment and he had a little bit of playful nature to it, I think the point stands. Will they? I don't know. But this is who they are right now, and that's unfortunate through 4 weeks because we've been told for weeks now by some of the leaders that have gotten up in front of the microphone, like Kyle Hamilton, that this is not who they are. Unfortunately, the stats, the tape, and everything else says otherwise.
I was going to say, under Zach Orr, this might be the real Baltimore Ravens defense standing up.
Yeah. Thanks, KB. Appreciate you, man. Nightmare Kilo.
He says it's either Lamar or Harbs.
Captain Hard for you.
Team chokes when it comes to the Chiefs. Head coach has to see he's struggling mentally. They're struggling mentally and help him. Or I don't know who he is. Maybe it's Lamar. Yeah. Turn Lamar into a game manager, quick passes, heavy run, just like the first drive that slowly built his confidence. I don't know where the offense went from the first drive. That's for sure. They abandoned it, though. Quick passes, Derrick Henry. It was gone after that first drive.
Certainly a methodical start, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, this is the formula for success because you know the Chiefs are going to get theirs on Zach Orr's defense. Sure enough, it was short-lived. Eric Hill drops in a 50 burger today. What's going on, EH? He says, well, on a positive note, some young guys got into the game and got valuable snaps. Anyways, you know what time it is. That feels like Kyle Hamilton's second part of his press conference last night. Apologizes a couple times, takes accountability, and then goes on to shout out like the entire defense that gave up however many yards and just gashed by Xavier Worthy and Mahomes and Kelsey. But you appreciate the sentiment from both Kyle and EH in this case. And he says, anyways, you know what time it is. In case no one tells you today they love you, just know that I do. Hashtag stop to 22. Hashtag 6K for LJ. Hashtag I have a whole teenager. Hashtag blessed. Hashtag the vault. Hashtag Montemilo. Eric, thanks for being here today, brother. Ray Dog, we trust.
He says, how do I say goodbye to a season we thought would be? The good times that made us laugh and buried at 1-3. You were my sunshine after the rain. Now it's just pain. So hard to say goodbye to these Ravens again. Is that Boys to Men there? It's so
Oh, Ray. Say it on so, man.
That is what's toughest is like the expectations are so unbelievably high. And I think rightfully so. And to see it all implode right in front of your face. And it's like a slow motion horror movie when you're running and you just keep falling down and there's no rhyme or reason to why you're falling down because there's open roads in front of you and there's just nothing you can do to stop it. Or you see a glass of milk falling from a table and you want to catch it and it's in slow motion, but you can't get there to catch it. That's the way the season feels right now. It's just like you can't stop it from unraveling.
Oof. Scary place to be. Brian Walters writes, oh man, remember back in 2024 when we looked forward to watching the Ravens play? Those were good times. What the actual F is going on? Clean house so we have a chance in 2026. Nate Campbell is celebrating 4 months. What's going on, Nate?
Nate says 2 weeks in a row of getting bullied, and sadly, we watched the team quit yesterday. This was the worst version of the Chiefs, and we were embarrassed. And here's the thing is like, everybody in Kansas City and the national media are like, what a Chiefs statement game. They said the same thing for the Bills. What a Bills statement game coming from behind. Lions, what a Lions statement game, because they're still thinking of the Ravens as the 2024 or 23 or any of the other Ravens in the Lamar Jackson era, that the Ravens are typically a statement game. Is it really a statement game for these guys, or is it just an indictment on the Ravens? And being in Baltimore, I feel like it's more the latter, and it's more of an indictment. But that's for them to figure out. The Chiefs will go on and figure out who they really are. Same with the Lions and Bills. Maybe they're lying to themselves by using the Ravens as a measuring stick. But I personally would not use this Ravens defense as a measuring stick to say, Patrick Mahomes and this offense is back. Maybe it will be, but I would not use this game as the reason why.
Yeah, I think what perfectly sums that up, Sarah, is actually this is regarding one of your former BYU Cougars here, Kingsley Suamataia. He's a guard for the Chiefs, and he was their second-round pick back in 2024. And I just this speaks to sort of the sentiment that you shared there. It was a lot of firsts, if you will, this season for Kansas City. That's what the Ravens gifted them yesterday. And one example of that is this from Nick Jacobs, who covers the Chiefs. Okay, he writes, Kingsley Suamataia did not allow a pressure on 41 pass blocking snaps. That's the first of his career, and he got that from Next Gen Stats. So, again, this is a second-year player. Started a lot of games so far through 2 years in Kansas City. Ravens give him a full clean slate when it comes to his pass pro yesterday, and I just think that's a good microcosm of what's taking place so far with this defense.
Who outside of Tavius Robinson was putting any sort of pressure on Patrick Mahomes?
Maybe Mike Green early in that first half with a couple nice spin move techniques there, but then he tailed off, and the majority of this defense tailed off. You go look at the stat. I'm not even going to go to the stat sheet. It's not good. Sod Blitz 34 writes, last year I said that TM situational play calling, meaning Todd Monken's, is poop. And you two went on and on about how great a year it was and how we were lucky to keep him. Still feel lucky.
First of all, I highly doubt I said we're lucky to have somebody. However, I do remember defending Todd Monken. And no, I'm not. I'm not defending him this morning, nor was I last night.
Sod, I love you. Of course the Ravens were. I mean, I'll say it. I think they were lucky to have him after last year. Heck yeah. After what he did.
I think that Todd Monken 1000% opened up the opportunity for Lamar Jackson to show that he's a true dual threat. And to pretend that that's not the case is silly. Now, in terms of situational calling, I don't know that I was like, we're lucky to have him in situational play calling, but in the way that he opened up the offense to both be a running and passing threat, that absolutely happened. But obviously that is not happening to this point. We started off well with 40 points per game 2 times and then 30 some odd. And then it's a big dud, a huge dud. We criticized him last night. We're going to continue to do so on the other side of these super chats.
Yeah, I don't know where this is coming from. I mean, red zone play last year was phenomenal. They were extremely efficient. Sarah, they've been anything but so far, and we're going to get to the short yardage woes and the misusage of Derrick Henry that's just perplexing, as you said, in just a bit here. Not sure where that energy is coming from, but we appreciate you for the super chat. Captain Hard writes, can't fix the mental stuff with a pep talk. Need new coaches and players who don't have the funk from the mental collapses of our past. Captain also writes, Last one. Ravens are so bad at chalking games, the national media is numb to it. They barely talked about us this morning. Shaking my head. We don't have leaders. You want to know why they're not talking about the Ravens this morning? Here's my thought on it. 1, Sarah, you already alluded to it. The Chiefs are back. That's the big statement. And 2, Micah Parsons' return to Dallas was a big one last night. And I hate games that end in ties. That's what happened last night. Sunday Night Football. Packers, insane game management or lack thereof in the waning moments, almost handed them a loss. With 1 second left on the clock, they were able to kick a game-winning field goal, or excuse me, a game-tying field goal. And it was 40-40, Sarah, in overtime. Just insane.
Regardless of what, almost nothing that the Ravens and Chiefs could have done to become the lead of all the sports programs this morning. Because when you had the fallout between Parsons and Jerry Jones, and then him coming back just a few weeks later, and then you tie at 40-40 with on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
Like all that drama, that was for sure going to be the lead to all the Monday morning programming, and it was. In a lot of cases, Kansas City and the Ravens were the number 2 story for these programs.
Not to mention Jackson Dart, New York market, Russell Wilson's bench. They beat the Chargers. That's going to garner some attraction as well. So perhaps a perfect storm. And maybe that's just what the doctor ordered. Speaking of the doctor, it's a 50 burger for Diesel. What's up, DD? He writes, sigh. Our coach has lost the locker room. I'm sick of this. You know what? Win or lose, this isn't Ravens football. I'm sick of fake accountability. We used to lose with pride and mark our calendar for the date we get to get even with the other team. These guys. Strong words there from Diesel Doctor. And that is worthy of a Mama Meatloaf on a Monday. Thank you, DD, for being here. Sarah, did you have any reaction to that?
Well, I was thinking back to Captain Hard where he said a pep talk isn't going to get them out of it, and I completely agree. Like I said, it's got to be return for healthy players on top of big coaching moves.
After you.
Pinky says, apology for not watching after losses.
You're still here. Yeah. You're still here now. That's all that matters. Apollo Creed's young nephew. This is definitely a new super chat donor. Apollo writes, at this point, I am over the Harb's experience. His contract makes things difficult. Remember, he was extended this offseason. Let's start a collection plate or GoFundMe to buy him out. I'll throw $100 on it. So Apollo's willing to get the GoFundMe started, even though I
appreciate the comedy, but his contract is almost means nothing. Yeah. Steve Bisciotti parted ways with Brian Billick right after he got an extension too. It's not a problem. It's not like it's the cap, right? Like coaching salaries do not hurt a cap. It does hurt a bottom line, but that will not stop Steve Bisciotti if he feels like it was time to move on. I just don't think that Steve Bisciotti is. We talked about this in the pre-show call about what would surprise us and what wouldn't. It would surprise me if Steve Bisciotti were to move on from John Harbaugh mid-season. Not that it would be unwarranted, but that it would be surprising for Steve Bisciotti to do that based off of what I know of him.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. And obviously it's an important reminder of his like organizational philosophies when it comes to lame duck coaches. Not something that, he typically leans into from an ownership standpoint, hence the extension this past offseason. Gregory L. Turner Jr. says John Harbaugh took a trip to the White House this summer, and Trump told him to throw the season. Like I told you 2 years ago, Sarah, not in win now mode. Sarah, do you remember when he told you that 2 years ago?
No. Sorry,
Don't even
Gregory.
know how anything related to politics got involved there, but Adit is here today.
This is where we're hitting this silly point in these super chats. Adit Mahmoud says, I think Harbs retires and they get Jesse Minter.
Of course, Jesse is the current defensive coordinator for Jim Harbaugh in LA for the Chargers. Kobe Pruitt writes, last time the Ravens started 1-3 was 2015, as we discussed last night. The team had a rash of injuries to starters and finished the season 5-11. Sound familiar? It was the first time Harbs missed the playoffs in his tenure. It does sound very familiar. Kobe, thanks for bringing us back down memory lane. Deb James, 25, partner.
He has, quote, John Harbaugh has been absent on the sidelines for 4 or 5 years, close quote, attributed to Chris Carter.
I shared that, or maybe we didn't. I can't remember, but I do remember that within the last couple weeks from Chris Carter. Want to say that might have been after the Bills collapse. Don't quote me. Eric Hill has dropped in his second 50 burger of the day. He dropped in 2 or 3 on the Vault's postgame show last night. And then postgame of the postgame on the Bobby Baltimore channel, he dropped in another 50 burger. EH, you are Superman. He writes, well, major setbacks, but here's how we can look at it. There's no testimony without a test. No message without mess. Regardless, that is a bar. That was a bar. Regardless, we need to believe in what we have in the moment. Speak the facts and acknowledge it. But somehow with our mouths, we, and did he, yes, he did, need to pray, hope, wish, or whatever positive thoughts. It feels like we are speaking death on this team. Maybe. My faith is just that strong in my creator. Strong messaging today from Eric Hill, Sarah. Mother meatloaf from a 50 burger from EH. Appreciate the sentiments, brother, and all the support you continue to give us. That brings us to Isaiah.
Yeah, I'm with Eric. I tend to be more on the optimistic side. I guess the problem is I don't know that there's any Erics in the locker room. That's more that's where like the pessimism comes from. Is it's like you're not hearing these types of messages coming out of the locker room.
Can we get him a credential?
So, yeah, get in there, Eric. Get in there. Isaiah says Steve Spagnuolo for head coach.
Ryan says, as an organizational health consultant, I've seen this before. It's over. The team has been lost. Richard's in the house. What's going on, Asmodeus Thanatos, a.k.a. Wingman of the Year, for you, partner?
He says, I'm not going to another live Ravens game this year. Not only did we lose like we did, I ended up getting COVID over my birthday, and they called us spoiled. Jeez. Harbs needs to be fired, but he won't. They'll chalk it up to injuries. Man, I get why you don't want to go anymore, Asmodeus. They lost. I'm sure Asmodeus was screaming his heart out for those defensive stands that didn't come to fruition. He got COVID on his birthday, and then he got called spoiled. That's like so sad. It's making me laugh. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes you become so miserable, all you can do is laugh at it.
Just knowing Richard's personality a little bit, right? He's just sitting there like, of course this happens to me. So yeah. Thanks for the super chat. Hopefully you're, fully recovered, Richard. I know those, sometimes COVID can linger. It's the second time in as many weeks I've heard somebody contracting COVID at this point. It's very strange.
By the way, I just want to point out, in case people didn't remember, 2 super chats ago, he said Steve Spagnuolo for head coach. Do you guys remember that Steve Spagnuolo was on the defensive staff? I remember because he was so nice in the cafeteria. Yeah, he was a senior defensive assistant in 2013, and he was the secondary coach in 2014. After that, he went to be the Giants defensive coordinator, then their interim head coach, and then was the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. But yeah, I remember he was a super nice guy. I remember talking to him in the lunchroom a few times, Steve Spagnuolo.
And I, of course, grew up in the upstate New York area as a Giants fan, and it was the heyday of Giants football with Eli and Strahan and Brandon Jacobs and Spags calling the plays, right? And Tom Coughlin. I mean, it was unbelievable. The guy has had, in a sense, he's almost had 2 Hall of Fame careers within one, Steve Spagnuolo. And we'll see if he ever gets, an He's not yet been a head coach?
Oh, he was the interim head coach for the New York Giants. He didn't get the head coaching job though.
Okay.
So he was out of work in 2018, and then 2019 he became the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs.
Out of work in 2018, huh?
Well, and I wonder if it's because he was looking for a head coaching opportunity.
Yeah.
And was hoping for one, and then realized he had to go back to be on a DC level. But he's been a defensive coordinator, in several places.
Well, at some point you ask yourself, and I'm sure he has over the last few years of this dynasty, a lot more than a few years at this point, but is the grass greener on the other side for a head coaching opportunity that may ruin my life for a couple of years and ruin my sleep schedule and move my family and so on and so forth? He's got the cushiest job in all of sports right now, and see if he continues it. If the Chiefs can turn things around, which they obviously took a step towards doing. Everybody's talking about it this morning. Olu writes, it's not the loss, it's the way we looked on both sides of the ball. Left guard is playing like poo, stayed on his back the entire game. What is going on? Mike, Sarah?
Mike says offense and defense are so wildly volatile depending on the coordinator over the years. So what impact does John Harbaugh provide? Clearly very low impact.
Robert N. says Ravens are a bunch of boys, ain't no men on this team. Macta is lost for words. Thanks for being here, Macta. Kobe Pruitt is in the house again, Sarah.
He says it's nice of K-Ham to think we're better than this, but Bill Parcells would disagree and say you are what your record says you are.
ATS Travels writes, this team keeps on about last year, but how are we in year 2 of this defense? And it's somehow worse. Having 131 PF and being 1-3 is garbage. Change now. USMC, be more. Sarah?
Says, tell Marlo to turn off his podcast and turn up his game. Did he do a podcast last night?
I don't know.
I'll
look live right now.
Yeah, look that up. But my guess is if he did, it would have been all over my Twitter feed. Because I know people were looking for it last night. They were looking for him and KVN. People were like, you better not show up on the podcast tonight. So maybe there's one out there, but I would have thought I would have seen it. Okay, so USMC Be More says, yeah, tell Marlo to turn off his podcast and turn up his game. Tell EDC to go get a real line to protect our best asset, number 8. And tell John Horrible either start coaching or get out of the way until the defense stop being lazy like fans. Defense is being all these missed tackles everywhere.
Including 4 on 1 play early on in that first quarter. Just to be clear, I went ahead and checked both Marlon Humphrey's YouTube channel and Kyle Van Noy's, which he splits with his wife, Marissa, both not populated in the last 24 hours. Probably a correct read of the room, if you will. ATS Travels says, but maybe we have too much hope. If you constantly lose the playoff teams and your win is against the Browns, then maybe that's just who this team is. Josh Hoffman's in the house.
Josh says, I want to know how you guys became so critical of Harbaugh. It feels fast. I've been that way, but it's been developing for many years. It can't be changed in 4 games. What happened before this year? I think it's pretty clear how things have fallen off at the rails, Josh. Pretty clear.
Well, I think we've also addressed certain things really going back multiple years now.
We've definitely addressed things, including from the AFC Championship game. And before the season started, I was pretty darn critical. We got in arguments about the Super Bowl or bust. I did not like that attitude, that he was shying away from that. Didn't like that at all. Every year to me should be Super Bowl or bust, especially when you have an MVP at quarterback. The time is of the essence for sure. But it's pretty clear that things are falling off the rails right now.
Dialogue's been had inside this channel since the AFC Championship loss.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been consistent. Has it been ramped up over the last 2 weeks? You bet your butt. Absolutely it has. Really the last 4 weeks since that fourth quarter collapse. So
I also haven't seen Josh around here for a while, so he may have skipped a lot of it. Where have you been, Josh?
Well, thanks for being back, though.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Josh Hoffman, for the super chat. Dante Johnson, live from the bank in that profile photo with a scarf, $49.99. That's a 50 burger, Sarah, for you.
Says we've got to shake things up. The first quarter of football is over, and we're 1-3. It stinks we lost to top teams in the league, but the story is not over. This team needs to find a spark and take off. There's too much talent for us to be this bad. So true. There's too much talent to be this bad. Although now a lot of the talent's on the sideline.
Give us a little burger over there, will you?
A 50 burger? A ma the meatloaf?
Give us a little burger.
Ma! Did you hear that part? Did you get the ma?
Yeah. Not
get
the
that?
second one.
Not the second?
The second one.
Ma! The meatloaf!
There it is.
That's about as loud as I can be without it being cut off.
I'm low-key anticipating a 2-hour personal live stream today after the Harbaugh press conference, and you better believe I'm doing any conserving that I can. So thank you. Kwan says, wonder if John will see how bad this offensive line will be without Lamar. If we are 500, this should be EDC's most aggressive trade deadline. Couldn't agree more with that. Fire John. Jack Kilroy in the house.
Everyone needs to take it bunches like Bobby Bachelor said. Take it in bunches like Bobby the Bachelor said. It's the hardest first 6 weeks. Get to 3-3. And if we don't, then sound the alarms. In L we truz.
Yeah, Sarah's counter to that was fair too, though. You know, mine was an optimistic approach to kind of look at it in bunches. Sarah, your counter to that was essentially like the graphic is how the graphic looks, and to think that all 10 of these at any point will be back and available either prior to the bye or directly after the bye is probably unlikely.
Here's the thing. Like, I'm hearing a lot of national media say the same thing. Like, the Ravens season aren't over. They can get to 3-3 by the bye. Like in many seasons, I would 1000% agree. Like, that's the math. Of course, it's only 4 weeks. You know the Ravens history, this and that. But it's not just the record. It's not just that they're 1-3. It's that the defense is a mess. This isn't, we have to fix busted coverages. That's fixable. This is foundationally a bad defense. I don't have trust in the defensive coordinator. I feel like he's lost his leadership on the defense. There is no Nnamdi Madubuike coming back anytime soon. And then on top of it, it's the body language of the players. The team felt like they gave up yesterday. Then you have those post-game locker room reports. You have guys dodging media, and it's week 4. Not, we just had a crushing playoff loss. It's not just the record. I'm as optimistic as they come. I don't see optimism coming out of Owings Mills. I don't see fight out of Owings Mills. I don't see a mental toughness in Owings Mills. It's not just the record. It's that the defense is an absolute mess. They don't have the answers. So unless a bigger change is made, you're going to continue to see these performances and the lack of fight on top of it.
Lamar, by the way, a trend that we've been following, has been sacked 15 times so far through 4 games, some of which have been credited to him, by the way. Last year, Sarah, through 17 games, guess how many times he was sacked? Maybe you've already seen my tweet.
Yeah, I haven't seen your tweet. Go ahead.
23.
Oof.
15 through 4 weeks. 23 all of last year, which is certainly a disturbing trend on a number of levels, both from a Lamar indecisiveness standpoint, discomfort standpoint in the pocket, and also clear breakdowns that I know Cole Jackson's been following closely from a road grader standpoint. Tinze writes, I swore that Lamar would not win a ring as long as Fraudbaugh is head coach before the Monken era started. I thought I'd be proved wrong the last 2 years. Hefe says that John Gruden is still available and out there, former NFL head coach, former Super Bowl champion. Capybara, Sarah.
So when Owe dropped back into coverage for a loss of about, I think he was against Juju Smith-Schuster. Like it was Owe against Juju. He says into coverage for a loss of about 10 to 15 yards. My brother and I looked at each other, then silently left the bar.
Sarah Dafe Owe just reminded me, he played in less than 50% of the snaps again. He had 33, that's 45% of the share yesterday, and that has been somewhat of a trend to start off this season. A guy that's in a contract year. Concerning. Harrison A. Says, what the heck, Marlon and Van Noy going to say on their pod today? Jokes aside, we're going to go 1-5, get healthy, then win 9 or 12 games with that schedule ahead. Ozzy won't let us give up. Keep faith, y'all. Young Cherokee Peasy, of course, was our first ever $500 donation a couple weeks ago. He's in the house today with a $20.
I remember that. He says, run the ball. We need to run 40% of the time. Why are we passing on first down? That should be run or at least a play action. Our O-line is horrible, so run block to make it easier for them. It's common sense.
We're getting there, YCP. Don't you worry. Obviously today, very reactionary based. We know that we've just ripped off Super Chats for the last 20 plus minutes. It's important for us to get as much of a sense of what you guys are feeling today. So we appreciate you on the audio only side of things and everyone else in between for understanding and for being here today. Kevin writes, we lose to playoff teams and it's okay. Are we not considered one of those teams? Can't make excuses for the staff. Thanks, Kevin. And thanks to all of you for being with us today. Over 8,200 concurrents. It's a big Monday show and we've got a lot more content to get to. If you could on the way in, please like the video. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. Those are great ways to support the program. And when you support our brand sponsors like Gumtree Maryland, who's today's sponsor, you're directly supporting the show as well. You can also go to thevaultpod.com/shop and check out our new merch line that we dropped back in July. We will get to more super chats, gifts, and everything else alike in the coming moments. But Sarah, first, let's shift gears to the next topic, shall we?
Yeah, and the next topic, we are going to zero in a little bit more on some of the coordinator decisions that were going on yesterday. And we're going to start on the offensive side. We covered this a little bit last night in the post-game show, but just as a refresher, the Ravens in short yardage situations on offense were terrible. They were absolutely terrible. One time in the beginning, remember that first drive? It sure was nice. But then it went all downhill. Jonah Schaefer summed it up very well in these short yardage situations. On 3rd and 2, Todd Monken ran it. What do you know? As Cherokee just said, he ran it and they converted. But then he decided to abandon the run in short yardage situations. On 4th and 1, if you can remember, he had Lamar drop back to pass. It went incomplete. On 3rd and 1 again, Lamar dropped back to pass, was sacked, and fumbled. Then on 3rd and 3, pass again, and a sack again. Jonah Schaefer says the Ravens have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson for the express purpose of getting easy yards. I said last night, I don't know, where is the game plan that they had against the Steelers last year, where they used the combination of Lamar and Derrick Henry to have TJ Watt spinning in a blender, not knowing where the ball was. He knows the Ravens as good as anybody, him and Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. And they were completely fooled by what the Ravens were doing. That's been completely abandoned. John Harbaugh was asked about these short yardage situations.
And I got it. Let me know when.
And Bobby's got it right here. John actually saying out loud that he wasn't happy with Todd Monken's play calling.
Play calling, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm happy about it at all. I'm sure that Todd's not happy about it either. None of us are, So you got to look at that and decide what you want to run there, in some of those circumstances and situations. But, if they work, they look good. They threw the ball on 4th and short and 3rd and short a few times and completed them. So maybe we just need better plays. We need plays that are going to pop open. Maybe we've got to do a better job of game planning those plays. That's what I would say. I think that we need to put our guys in better position and give them opportunities to make plays in those situations, because in a game like this, you got to be aggressive. You got to go for stuff. And we didn't get it done.
Camera dropping there at the end. But
what went right last night? The audio was cut out. You just saw the camera pan down to GEHA Field, our former sponsor. GEHA, it's nice to see you guys again. But yeah, it was just kind of a perfect, microcosm of the night, if you will. But, Sarah, I'll just jump in and give a thought on that quickly. Let's be clear here. Wow. As much as we can pose the question right now to our audience, do you think that John Harbaugh called out Todd Monken? I think we just got to go to the next step. He called out Todd Monken's play calling last night. I think it's pretty clear. Quote, yeah, that's play calling. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm happy about it at all. I'm sure that Todd's not happy about it either. None of us are. maybe we just need better plays. Maybe we got to do a better job of game planning those plays. In a game like this, you got to be aggressive. You got to go for stuff, and we didn't get it done. Sarah, they were 3 for 10 on third down, 1 for 4 on fourth down. Do you even want to know what the Chiefs were on the other side?
Yes, I do. Tell me.
4 for 4 on fourth down, 5 for 15 doesn't wow you or pop off the page at you, but they had the ball for a lot of this game, so you can kind of see how that, levels off or whatever. I mean, they almost possessed the football, Sarah, for 10 full more minutes than the Ravens did. Yet again, the Ravens are beat at their own game, something that we've grown accustomed to seeing throughout the Lamar era. Not them getting beat at their own game, but them controlling the pace and overall structure of the game. Now, twice in under a week, they've had it handed to them in a category that they typically hand to other teams. So, highly concerning. Didn't love the way that John chose to handle this question. Clearly, emotions, I'm sure, were running. They were not good enough, as you see here on the screen, in short yardage situations early on third and fourth down. And I think the elephant in the room, much like it was through the first part of last year, maybe the first third, let's call it, what is up with the misusage of Derrick Henry? Do they know how to truly utilize Derrick Henry? It's funny to say that off the first year with him, where he goes for over 1,900 yards and flirts with 2,000, flirts with a rushing title. Had Saquon Barkley not been in historic fashion, he probably would have had that rushing title. So I don't necessarily mean, do they know how to utilize him? It's more about, do they know how to use him to their advantage in certain situational types of third and fourth downs on short yardage situations? And yesterday, I think the answer to that question is a big fat no.
What's interesting about this response from John Harbaugh is that he's right. He's saying things that we're saying on this show. He's saying things that fans are saying, is that I actually agree that they went for it on fourth down several times. He was rightly criticized for not going for it last week. In fact, I think he could have gone for it one more time when they went for a field goal. So like it almost got to the point where like not only were the players giving up, it looked to us, but it also looked like John Harbaugh did when he went for a field goal to cut the lead to 14 when they still needed points. Like he could have gone for it more often. He also didn't go for 2 points after a touchdown late. And again, maybe he was like, well, we've been injured, I'm just getting out of here. But again, that was like throwing in the towel for sure. So when he talks about, hey, I felt like we needed to go for it on fourth down, I agree. It's not like people are being like, what is Harbaugh doing? He shouldn't have gone for it. We agree that they should have gone for it. So he defended himself in that. And then he's also saying the play calls needed to be better. And that's true. The only problem is that this is his offensive coordinator, and this isn't the first time it's happened. So why hasn't this been fixed? Why is it that you guys signed, Eric DeCosta signed Derrick Henry coming out of the AFC Championship game loss against the Kansas City Chiefs, where they forgot to run the ball? And so they go out and they get Derrick Henry, and everybody in the media is saying, okay, well, that's why they go get Derrick Henry, because when you have Derrick Henry, you are not allowed to forget about the run game. Like, it won't happen when you have the king on your roster. He'll force you to not forget about the run game. He'll force you to not abandon the run game. In fact, maybe Derrick Henry might have you running too much and you're not passing the ball enough. That was one of the reasons that everybody was like, sweet, Derrick Henry won't let Todd Monken and John Harbaugh ever abandon the run again, especially against the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's bananas that here we are, September 29th, against the Kansas City Chiefs again, and being like, what happened to the run game? And so while what John Harbaugh is saying is right, because Todd Monken does deserve criticism for those play calls, but like, why again did John Harbaugh allow it? Why did he have to just say out in public? Why did he have to get to the point where he called out his offensive coordinator in public? That should have been handled already. What do you have here up on the screen?
Well, just the transcription, part of what I tweeted out,
okay.
What we're talking about right now. And to your point, you're right. It's true. It didn't need to be said by John Harbaugh.
Well,
That's not a level of accountability.
You guys pass the ball instead of running it. Well, you're right. Well, how they set it up. Here's the transcripts from the Ravens. You mentioned that this is from Jonah Schaefer. You mentioned that the game started to get out of hand. I think on 3 of the 4 early short yard, 3rd and 4th downs, you guys passed the ball instead of running it. Yes, I mean that's play calling.
Again, we're to your point. We're not disagreeing. I think I'll speak for myself. I'm disagreeing with the way that he brought Todd Monken into play. I would have liked a little bit more accountability from
John himself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Whereas he says, hey, and it starts with me. Hey, and it starts with me. I feel good about going for it. We didn't have the play calls. I wish he just said it starts with me. We got to get better plays, and that starts with me. But he didn't say that.
Let's be clear. This was throwing a coordinator under the bus. I'll speak for myself on this one. That's the way I interpreted this. And I didn't appreciate that from Todd Monken's perspective here. So, if I'm Todd, we're not going to hear from him until later on in the week.
Thursday,
and he's cool as a cucumber. They're going to be full on in Houston mode. I'm sure they already are trying to flush what just happened yesterday and get themselves healthy and all that stuff. And Todd's too classy to ever kind of, have any sort of Thursday press conference related to a response. But I thought that this was, I won't say low blow because I think that's hyperbolic, but I will say I thought John missed the mark with this.
Well, I'm glad that he told the truth, but I agree with you that he should have said it, and it starts with me. Right?
Could have happened at any point in here.
Say all of what he can say everything he just said, but add in there, and it starts with me.
Yeah.
That's all you had to add because he's telling the truth. And how do we know that it's the truth? Like we went over this last night. How is it that on 4th and 2, Todd Monken calls a passing play where he has an empty backfield with Lamar Jackson? It's an empty backfield. Nobody's out there. And you know for a fact that Steve Spagnuolo on 4th and 2 is going to send the house. There was no plan for a blitz. None. Not even Justice Hill, who has become Todd Monken's #1 blitz picker-upper, including against Chris Jones, right? Like we remember those days in Kansas City last year, week 1, where Justice Hill was playing this cat and mouse game with Chris Jones, and Lamar was going back and forth in the pocket to help out. Like not even Justice was back there. He had so many weapons lined out. And then all of them, and I think except for one, and I need to see the all-22 film on it, but from the broadcast copy, it looked like all but one of those routes were deep developing routes on 4th and 2.
Yeah.
You need a quick passing route, and you need somebody there to pick up the blitz. You took Derrick Henry off the field, so he wasn't even a threat. He wasn't even a threat. How many times was Derrick Hill taken off the field? And we'll get to that in just a second. But once again, after halftime, when Tony Romo at halftime, they asked him, what did the Ravens need to do to get back in this game? He said, make it simple. Hand it off to Derrick Henry. And they start to do it on the first drive coming out of halftime. They start to do it, and they're moving the ball. And Kansas City is on their heels because you set it up with a nice Derrick Henry run. And then you set it up more with the Derrick Henry play action pass. You're moving. You get to 3rd and 1. And Tony Romo's like, oh, this is great. You're going to have in there 3rd and 1. You've got the king. You're going to leave him out there, right? He's like, right? Right? Like, right? Please, John Harbaugh, right? Like practically begging. And then suddenly the camera pans out and there's Justice Hill back there and the king has been taken off on 3 and 1. And then what do you do? You drop back and pass again. And by the way, Derrick Henry was moving the ball on that drive. There was no reason to take him off. You take him off. Lamar drops back, sack. And now you have to settle for a field goal. Yeah, what are we doing in these short yardage situations? Derrick Henry Derrick Henry, he keeps showing up in these post-game locker rooms. He's been embarrassed. He's been embarrassed this season with his fumbles, but he's determined. He's accountable. He comes back. He's looking good. He's averaging over 5 yards per carry last night. By the way, he's averaging 5.8 yards per carry this season, and yet he's 20th in attempts in the entire NFL. He says he's the only one with a little bit of fight, even though he says it very under his breath. Derrick Henry on the challenge for the Ravens falling to 1-3 and dealing with several injuries. He says, bring it on. I look at it with a positive mindset. Ain't nobody going to come out and do it for us. We got to go back to work. Bring it on, he says. Thank you, King Henry. Despite not being used properly, he is number 3 among running backs with 15 or more attempts, Bobby, with 5.8 yards per carry, yet he is the 20th. Look at him all the way down at the bottom of that list. All the way at the bottom of that list, number 20 in passing, in rushing attempts among running backs, despite having the 3rd best rushing average per carry. And I don't know what Todd Monken's doing. I'm glad that John Harbaugh is at least aware of it, so maybe they can talk. But again, I'm with you. He should have said, and it starts with me, because it does start with him. It does.
Our guy Dev, friend of the show, good Ravens Twitter follow too, kind of sums it up here, right? Derrick Henry has 21 carries for 94 yards against the Chiefs in 2 games. That was week 1 of last year, of course, and then just yesterday. He averaged over 5 yards per carry and had 4 carries in the first half. Again, that was yesterday in Kansas City. The Ravens signed him, quote, for Kansas City, right? There was a belief that they've built this team to try and beat who they haven't really been able to beat at all throughout the Lamar era. Not many have, aside from Cincinnati, in the Kansas City Chiefs and the Eagles. Dev said, I'd respect them more if they tried and leaned into who they were. Instead, they get played by Kansas City every time. And Sarah, I think that's where we're at right now. The Ravens go into these games against the Chiefs. And I mean, how early on in that game yesterday did they wave the proverbial white flag?
Yeah, it felt like there were several times that was going down. Here's what's interesting to me is, so if you go back to this stat right here that we put up, where I'm saying that Derrick Henry is 20th in attempts. Like, one could argue it's like, well, they're playing from behind, so it's hard to get Derrick Henry out there. And it's like, if that was why he wasn't getting enough attempts, I could agree with you. But as Dev points out, he had 4 carries in the first half. Wow. You went up 7-0 on that first drive. And after that, you abandoned it. Yeah. 4 carries in the first half. The game was not out of reach. This isn't because the Ravens are way behind and then they just can't use them anymore. Like, it has been happening enough where they keep, and we've even talked about it, they prefer Justice Hill back there in pass protection on third and long. They prefer that. I haven't seen Derrick Henry being terrible in pass protection from not to ever really get a chance. I mean, he's rarely out there for those 3rd downs. I think he can bail Lamar Jackson out. Lamar's been able, like, Justice Hill is great when you pass it down and check down to him, and he's almost an automatic first down. I love that about him. He's there for pass protection, and he's able to leak out. Lamar throws it to him, checks down. A lot of times he'll convert that to a first down. That's all fine, but now you're predictable. Todd Monken is telling the team when Justice Hill is in, he's in there for pass protection and the check down. When Derrick Henry's in, that's when we're going to run. And so now you've become too predictable. You're not switching it up enough at all. And so you can't use the excuse that the Ravens are behind so they can't run. That's not it. Not when you're running him 4 times in the first half when he started out as well as he did on that first drive.
I think that puts a pin in it for the time being.
Well, hold on. Just to add on the running back stuff. It almost puts a pin on it. Real quick. Before this weekend's game, Sam Cohen of the Baltimore Sun caught up with Keaton Mitchell. This plays in a little bit more to, like, are you losing people? He asked Sam Cohen of the Baltimore Sun, asked Keaton Mitchell, who has not been activated yet this year. He says, is it frustrating? Heck yeah, the soft-spoken Mitchell said, his voice shooting up like a flare. But it is what it is. Whenever they call my name, that's when it's going to happen. I'm always ready. And remember, last week they asked special teams coordinator Chris Horton about Mitchell. He said it's not so much that Mitchell is not getting better at the things that he needs to get better at. It's just like, where do we plug and play in that? That's kind of how I see it. So he doesn't see a place for him on special teams. Todd Monken doesn't see a place for him in the offense, but Todd Monken also doesn't seem to see a place for Derrick Henry very often in the offense. So that's a whole, you have so much talent. This team should be gashing people in the run. If nothing else, You should be gashing people in the run. And instead it's disappeared for 4 weeks.
Juan writes, it's both sides of the ball. There's no Ray Lewis in the building. The team has just gotten soft since, but Harbaugh does got to go. EDC needs heat as well. Kevin writes, all 22 said he stopped analyzing the game before the half. That should tell you something. We are efforting, by the way, to hopefully have Derek Coleman on the program tomorrow. He's checking his schedule. And I did watch that exact same video that Kevin is referencing, Sarah, from all 22 today. He literally stopped charting the Ravens defense as he does every single week prior to halftime because it was that dismal. So again, that does give you an indication of just how bad it was yesterday in Kansas City. Kodak, for you.
This is EDC's fault, says Kodak. He put this D-line and O-line together and let John pick his staff.
Richard says maybe we need better coaches. Captain Hard says coaches who knows they're on the hot seat normally starts blaming others like Todd. That's a big indication that he's lost the team, referring to John Harbaugh. Fire Flock, for you.
Said instead of, quote, Darkness Falls games, we need to do a whiteout and call it Vanilla Rises with these coordinators and head coach managing the game. Vanilla Rises.
Fire Flock, that's a new one. Is that somebody that we know that just changed his handle, his or her handle, or is this the first time we've heard from Fire Flock? Brian Kelly, clear difference between a team playing for one another and a group of guys playing paranoid to be pointed out as the reason things aren't working. And I promise you that's centered around coaching. Appreciate you, BK. And a $100 nugget drops from Eric Hill. That's red banner attached. It's for you.
He says intrusive thought. And just a breather about the horrible play of the Ravens. Since today is sponsored by Gumtree, do you think a date to Gumtree would be fine? All seriousness, though, the players are feeling the sting of not living up to the expectations. Hashtag Gumtree.
Mama Meatloaf! It's a double.
I'm
Yeah, appreciate you, EH. Yeah, date day at Gumtree? Heck yeah. Why not? Next time I fly in for a game, let's do it, EH. Maybe I'll have you you travel in. And a continued thanks to Gumtree for the opportunity to partner up this football season. Nate Campbell says, I get that he's unhappy with the play calling, but you're telling me as a head coach, you're telling me a head coach can't make in-game adjustments, halftime adjustments? He can't look up to the booth and say, run the dang ball? 4 carries at halftime? 4. Nate Campbell. That brings us to Juice Man Bond.
Juice says, Sarah is one more bad loss away from being on the Harbaugh gotta go train. I was hoping she'd hop on sooner.
Max Offit writes, if changes happen, not before the bye week, right? We'll see. We're going to have a slide on that in just a bit, a little exercise that I threw up on X earlier this morning. Dev James 25 writes, Harbaugh speaks as if he can't veto any play call he doesn't like. He watches the game unravel and does nothing.
That's what I'm wondering. Is there, like, you're all on headsets and it's 3rd and 1 and just be like, Todd, let's get King Henry here. And that's all you got to say. And then Todd gets a play. Like, you know what I mean? Like, is that like stepping on his toes? Is that getting a coordinator's like head during the game? Are you taking him out of his flow? Can you do that? 3rd and 1. Hey Todd, let's get King Henry here. Done.
You just kind of keep going back to something that was brought up yesterday on the live stream, Sarah, from a couple of years ago, where Jerry Rosburg, there were hints and reports out there that they wanted to bring him in not only for time management purposes, but game management purposes. Of course, he's a former special teams coordinator in Baltimore for a long time, somebody who found, a diamond in the rough out of Texas and Justin Tucker. And then that went below the wayside, and who knows why. They couldn't come to an agreement. And now, just a couple of years later, of course, just kind of begs the question, like, what is the internal operation like? Are there flaws? And what does the overall in-game communication consist of? Not a lot of answers there. Kobe Pruitt, yet again, drops in a 50-burger. KB is letting it rip today. Sarah, you read it, and I will meatloaf it.
Kobe's got great takes, too. So here we go. Let's see what this one is. Maybe I set him up. Well, let's see. He says, why is it every time Harbaugh is feeling the heat from the team and the media, he acts like he had no idea why certain choices were made and has no agency in team decisions? Why does he have to investigate why a decision was made? Shouldn't he know? I feel like, especially coming off the Lions game, that should have been addressed already.
Yeah.
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 Get out ahead of it.
I think this is a really valid and insightful comment here from KB. Meatloaf! Appreciate you, Kobe.
There's a big one coming up. There's going to be a big meatloaf coming up.
Goodness gracious.
Eric Hill can't stop, won't stop.
Thanks, KB. You're the man. We'll get to Eric in just a bit. I just went ahead and peeked. I did peek ahead. Liza says, what is the head coach's responsibility, especially Harbaugh? Shouldn't a head coach override the OC if he thinks it's a bad play? Hashtag fire Harbaugh now. Sarah, I think Liza was a step ahead of us a couple minutes ago. LJ has become, how about this? LJ. LJ's become our new, what's your full name, LJ? He's become our newest channel member today. Eric Hill says, no offense, Bobby, you're not my type, so he is not my Gumtree.
I want to date with you.
It was an indirect invitation to go to Gumtree together. Thanks, Eric. And it's a 50 burger on top of what we've already done today. 50 new channel memberships have been divvied out on this Monday to 50 random subscribers, thanks to YouTube, and most importantly, thanks to Eric Hill's generosity. Meatloaf! Appreciate you, EH. Big 50 burger from the boy.
Hey, now if I cover my mic all the way, tell me if this cuts out, okay? So I got to cover, okay? All right.
We got an ever so slight amount of that. It's just a slight burger from you.
I so badly want to be on the meatloaf gig, and I just my mic won't let me.
And do my vocal cords agree with that? We need every part of you. EH, thanks for the 50 spot, man. Thank you today. Thanks to everybody for tuning in today. We've got over 10,000 concurrents at the moment. I'm not sure we've ever reached that number before. So thanks for being with us today, guys. Quincy Foreman has become our newest channel member. Free Wi-Fi, Sarah, for you.
Free Wi-Fi says, I think the 2 delay of games were Lamar changing plays. Once again, if Ben Cleveland is worse than Daniel Fa'alele, he shouldn't be in the league.
Thanks, Free Wi-Fi. Rafike coming through, and he writes, the national media keeps calling us a well-coached team. They need to stop. We're not well-coached right now. No, they are not. Thank you guys for weighing in. We'll get to as many super chats as we can, but Quick Hits is up next in just a second. Do want to remind everybody on the way in or on the way out, if you could, like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, consider becoming a channel member today, or perhaps gift-giving membership. You can go to thevaultpod.com/shop if you'd like to support the program with our new merch line or buying a piece of merch. We'll do our Purple Friday giveaways in the coming weeks as well, which we're looking forward to continuing to do. And thanks to all 10,000 plus of you coming up on 11 for being here today. I wanted to drop this one in from Next Gen Stats just to kind of explain, Sarah, how Kansas City successfully went about moving the ball with ease on this Ravens defense. Mahomes got it done in the quick game. And this is Next Gen Stats again. He was 17 of 22 for 142 yards and 3 touchdowns under 2.5 seconds. That's his most quick touchdowns since week 1 of 2022, and the Ravens allowed him to pitch a tent. He's averaging the second fastest time to throw among quarterbacks this season at 2.53 seconds. And Sarah, you can see it on the screen, right on this graph and on this graphic that Next Gen Stats provide. It was nothing crazy. It was across the middle with Travis Kelce. It was some of the misdirection, speed stuff underneath with Xavier Worthy that killed them. And now for the second consecutive game, the Ravens were susceptible to speed, susceptible in the middle part of the field, susceptible up front when it came to pressuring, or in this case, not pressuring the opposing team's quarterback. And much like Jared Goff had the luxury of Monday night, yeah, Mahomes got it out quick, but he had all the time in the world if he didn't want to do that.
Bobby, of course he's doing well in the quick, short passing game because the Ravens secondary line up like 30 yards off their man. Like it's just this soft coverage that they're still like dealing with the trauma of last year of like these big plays getting over their heads. So now they're like, that's not going to happen. So then they just let these quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes just be like, okay, if you don't want to, if you want to be that many yards back, we'll just dink and dunk the way down. Easy peasy. Usually it's hard to dink and dunk, But when you play that soft of a coverage, makes it pretty easy. And Bobby, we just kind of ripped, John Harbaugh and Todd Monken on the offensive side. And we haven't even talked about the defense yet, maybe because we've been talking about the defense for 3 weeks and how just horrible it is. But to your point just a minute ago, where the Ravens couldn't hardly get anything done in short yardage situations, the defense, like, I don't know why any coach wouldn't be like, oh, this is 4 downs every single time against the Ravens defense, because they may get a 3rd down stop here and there, but it also might be because these offensive coordinators are like, but I still got 2 more plays because I know that they're not going to stop me. They've gotten, as Russell Street report pointed out, the Ravens stopped the Browns on 4th and 10. 4th and 10 with 6:22 left to go. And that was back in week 2. And the Browns were in desperation mode right then. And so the Ravens knew what they could do on that. But since that, on 4th and 10, that was their last 4th down that they stopped. They had to go 10 yards. Since then, they've allowed 7 straight successful 4th down conversions, including 3 for Detroit on 4th and 3, 4th and 1, and 4th and 2. And then 4 yesterday, as you pointed out earlier, on 4th and 2, 4th and 1, 4th and 1, 4th and 1. Can't stop on 4th down. Can't do it. Can't do it. There's no fear whatsoever. And as Deontay Lee of The Ringer, again, this was an article before the Kansas City Chiefs game, Hamilton, Madubuike, Roquan Smith, and Humphrey each paid in the top 10 money at their positions. Starks, Oweh, Wiggins, all first-round picks. All those first-round picks plus 4 guys paid in the top 10 at their positions on defense, and this is what's happening, which is why I do not believe that Zach Orr is the guy, based off of what happened last year until Dean P started to help out, and now happening again. And Rex Ryan, former Ravens defensive coordinator, he understands what the standard is. He was asked about what he saw from the Ravens defense.
If I were to ask you to give one word to describe the Baltimore defense right now, what would it be?
Unrecognizable. I don't recognize anything. I don't recognize the tackling. I don't recognize the Raven mentality, the Raven pursuit, the Raven pass rush. I don't recognize the scheme. So it's not even just the disposition of the players, but I don't recognize the scheme. Like, this used to be an attack-first defense, could care less who they were playing. All right, and to me, I don't recognize it, and certainly don't recognize the results. This is the worst defense in the National Football League.
Say
right
that
now.
again.
Yep. The worst defense in the National Football League. When going into the season, I think they're going to be the best.
The Baltimore Ravens.
The Baltimore Ravens. Now, look, last year we saw this too. For the first 5 games of the season, they couldn't stop a nosebleed, and then at the end of the season, they turn around. I don't see the same thing here. I don't know where it's coming, and because like I say, they're going to have to do some soul searching here. We got to play better without question. We got to play with that Raven mentality, that Raven pride. I don't see that.
Unrecognizable. He's asking for soul searching. I don't know. I don't know that there's any soul left. I don't. Soul searching was after the Bills game. Soul searching a little bit more after the Lions game. I just don't see it in there. I don't see anybody being able to search these souls. He said it best. The Ravens defense, you don't always have to be the standard that it was in the past. It's going to be tough to ever live up to the 2000 standard. There's some other ones that were up there that were maybe in the conversation of just as good or right after. But he's right. Yeah, I don't even recognize the Ravens defense at this point. It's completely a shell of its former self.
You almost have to pinch yourself, and not in the best of ways, right? When you hear Rex Ryan say that. And that's why Mike Greenberg was like, repeat that again? It's the worst defense in the National Football League? And Sarah, that brings me back to a thread that I was just watching on X yesterday between 2 former O-linemen, Jeff and Mitchell Schwartz. And Mitch, of course, was the former Chiefs lineman, won a Super Bowl with them. We had him on the Collective last week. And these guys were going back and forth talking about what they saw from the Chiefs offensive line, right? Protecting Patrick Mahomes and whatnot. And it's very subtle, but one of these is really telling. One of these tweets that Jeff Schwartz in game tweeted out yesterday. He goes, "Don't care if it's the Ravens defense, but like it's essentially like This looks like an actual functioning offense today. That's what he's talking about, Kansas City. And so he's almost like making it clear that this is a lesser opponent. So I know that some fans are going to come back at me and be like, yeah, it's the Ravens defense. And that makes you stop and you're like, oh my gosh. Like what? Wow. The standard is dead. The standard is dead.
It's dead. It's gone.
Whoa. Like that's backbreaking. That's an indictment. And it had me thinking this morning about realistic scenarios, whether it's pre-bye week, mid-bye week, post-bye week, in the imminent future over the next few months. What is the most realistic scenario that could potentially take place in the form of change? I think we've both been calling for change the last 24 hours, less than that. And I just kind of ripped off a few scenarios here, right? A, would John Harbaugh be fired? Meaning, would he transition into the front office potentially? B, would Zach Orr be fired and let go, allowing Chuck Pagano, who of course is a former NFL head coach, former coordinator, would he be promoted as interim? Could Dean Pease be factored into the equation somehow? C, will there be no organizational changes? That's, of course, been the most popular answer in my mentions. Or D, other. Call your shot. And it's just been interesting to see some dialogue today, knowing that, again, change is desperately needed in Baltimore. You got a feeling on this?
Well, I do, but I want to address one other thing you talked about. Did you say it was Schwartz who was saying, oh, I know it's the Ravens defense, but?
Yeah.
Was it Schwartz? Okay. Yeah, no, that's the equivalent of us being, after week 2, being like, okay, I know it was against 40-year-old Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns, but the defense did bounce back after, completely falling off the cliff against the Bills. And indeed, 2 weeks later, we're seeing, oh, yeah, it was just the Browns. It was just 40-year-old Joe Flacco. That's what made this Ravens defense look good, because in the 3 other games, they've come nowhere close. Yeah. So it stinks to be the Cleveland Browns of defense now. Like, it really stinks to be there. And like you said, it's like not even trying at all to diss the Ravens in the most nonchalant, polite kind of way. He just let the world know what people think of the Ravens defense now. That's number 1. Yeah. Number 2, did you say C was your biggest reply? No organizational changes before the bye week? Did you say C was the most popular reply?
Well, what do you think, right? It's like, whether it was sarcastic or not, C was coming in droves.
Yeah. Yeah. No, if we're talking like realistic,
yes,
it's definitely C.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one I would say is sort of B, but with a tweak. And for the audio only people, if you don't remember, B, Bobby has Zio fired, Pagano interim DC. I would tweak that, because here's my thing. John Harbaugh, he perhaps put Zach Orr in a position that Zach Orr wasn't ready for yet. Okay, so this could be the equivalent of a head coach who's on the hot seat, and he throws in a rookie quarterback that was drafted early in the first round, and he wasn't ready, but you threw him in there anyway. Like, how many times has the Jets ruined rookie careers, and a few guys have been able to, like Sam Darnold is resurrecting it, or the Browns. How many times have the Browns ruined a quarterback's career from the jump, and Baker Mayfield is overcoming that now that he's left. Okay. So if John Harbaugh were to fire Zach Orr a little over a year after going out on a limb to hire what I think was the youngest defensive coordinator at the time, and Zach Orr's reputation was like rising through the roof, similar to Mike McDonald. And so he's going to want to do 2 things at once: fix the defense, but also try to save Zach Orr's reputation somehow, because he put him in this position and it looks like it was premature. And of course, Zach Orr's going to jump at it. Who wouldn't, right? And so to me, what would be more realistic if B was the answer, it would be that play calling duties were given over to Pagano kind of quietly. You know what I mean? Made him behind the scenes more of a guy the way Dean Pease did, and kind of take things over a little bit more that way, and then maybe kind of deal with it in the off season. But like Zach Orr's reputation went from this fast, high rising guy who overcame having to leave his career early due to a neck injury or a neck issue that he had that apparently they just discovered, but he was born with. And so that's going to stink, right? That stinks for Zach Orr, that in a year and 4 weeks, his reputation has been destroyed. And so somehow John's going to want to salvage that while also fixing it. So like, that's more what I'm like. The realistic option is, can we just get Pagano in there calling plays and having a bigger voice behind the scenes without firing Zach Orr?
I hear what you're saying. It just brings you back down to the offseason following their AFC championship, appearance, where you had on the same staff Mike McDonald, Anthony Weaver, Denard Wilson, Zach Orr. There might have been one or two others, but those are the names that stood out to you. And look where everybody is now. Mike, of course, is having great success in Seattle as the head coach. Anthony Weaver, to no fault of his own, is the DC for Mike McDaniel in Miami. Ravens will see them in a month on Thursday Night Football leading into Halloween. I think Denard Wilson got the DC job in Tennessee, if memory serves. Bleak times right now in Titans country, but you get the point. There were a lot of people that, I guess, more or less were beaten out, or that Zach beat out, I suppose.
A lot of qualified guys.
Calculation, yeah, and he went with, to your point, maybe perhaps the premature option, and might end up coming back to bite him when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I wouldn't shock me if John was emboldened because he nailed it with Mike McDonald, even though Mike had a year of play calling, experience with Michigan, so we at least saw that. But it's almost like, ooh, look how I struck gold with this young hot shot coordinator. I can do it again.
Maybe.
And just didn't pan out.
Maybe.
Or hasn't.
Some snap count observations from yesterday in Kansas City. Brian Wacker, Baltimore Sun, had these. Joseph Noteboom logged 38 snaps in relief of Ronnie Stanley, who left the game with an ankle injury. Isaiah Likely, just 25 in his return, did not have one target, Sarah. Mark Andrews was involved early and then not very much at all after that in terms of like productivity. Derrick Henry, just 21 snaps. Mike Green played 45 on defense. John Jenkins, defensive tackle. Of course, no Travis Jones. Played a lot of snaps for him. Good for Keon Martin getting involved in the game. Undrafted free agent. Rookie corner had 39. Brent Urban, 38. He's now on the 53-man roster, as we learned over the weekend, as is Josh Tupou. You know what? I'm sorry. Tupou and Okoye were practice squad game day elevations. Brent Urban and Zaire Mitchell-Payton are now on the 53-man roster. So there you have.
Isaiah Likely with his – go ahead, Bobby. Sorry to cut you off.
I was just going to say Adafe Owe, just an interesting trend from coaching decision, playing time. He logged under 50% of the snap count share yet again. So,
well, he didn't seal the edge on that Worthy. Remember that Worthy end around?
No, he did not.
That went the distance. Owe didn't seal the edge there. He's declined to answer stuff in the locker room post game. He's like the most experienced outside linebacker with Kyle Van Noy down, and he's like, nope, go talk to other people. So Tavius has to step up. Mike Green, a rookie, has to step up. He's in a contract year, and this is how it's going down.
Yeah.
So, but Likely 25 snaps his return. He had 0 targets.
Yep.
Derrick Henry only 21 snaps. Mike Green getting plenty. Jenkins getting plenty. But get used to these names on defense: Green, Jenkins, Kenyon Martin, Urban. How are we saying his name? Tupou?
Josh Tupou.
Tupou. Okay, that's easy. Tupou and Okoye. Like, they could be staples for a minute, especially those defensive linemen.
More quick hits.
Those, yeah. This was a Bills podcaster made this note, but I have to agree with it. He pulled up that graphic. I used this graphic in week 1, Bobby. I pulled up this graphic where the score was 40-25, Ravens lead, 15 points with 4:48 left in the fourth quarter. I pulled that up after week 1 and said, Ravens lost this game. But now he's pulling it up 4 weeks later. And who would have thought? His name is Greg. He says, imagine at this moment telling Ravens flock fans that they'll be 1-3. And if you had told them that, they'd be like, wow, okay, so the Bills are the only win. You know?
Yeah. And that now sets up this week 5 matchup, 2 1-3 teams in Baltimore. Houston, Ravens, 1 o'clock coming up this weekend. After that, they'll host the Rams. Then they'll have their bye, and then the Chicago Bears they'll host coming out of the bye. And that's where they currently stand right now. Searching for answers, reeling at a crossroads. I called it a gut check day yesterday prior to the game. Felt like a lot more than that.
Bobby, you tell me how passionate Ravens fans are right now, and not in a good way, angry. We probably have a record right now, 12,392 concurrents listening in right now. Like, how many fans are here for therapy and searching for answers and wondering what's going to happen? Because I think everybody senses when you have more than 12,000 concurrents, a record for us, and it might be a record that may be doubling our previous record. People want big changes. That's why they're here. They're here in big numbers because they want big changes. They have a big passion for this. They're seeing a team with a Super Bowl hopes going down so quickly, being flushed, and Lamar Jackson, with a 2-time MVP, who has given so many prime years to this team, and watching those years just be wasted. And nobody wants to sit around and see it wasted more. The Ravens, through play calling and offensive line personnel and taking Derrick Henry off the field, is putting Lamar Jackson in terrible situations. It's not a shock that he's injured at this point. It's not a shock. We've been saying it from the beginning. They're flirting with disaster with this offensive line. It wouldn't be a shock to any of us if he goes down with an injury. We've said that before the season started. And here we are in week 4. Luckily, it's not one of those major injuries where he's ripped an ACL or a tendon in his foot or an Achilles or something like that. That hasn't happened. But there's a reason why, after an embarrassing loss after last night, it's just climbing. It's almost at 12,500. Fans want changes and they want it quick. Unfortunately, I don't know that they're going to get it. Our first indication will be John Harbaugh usually speaks around 2:30 on Mondays. It's kind of been all over the place so far this year, but usually it's 2:30. We're about 40 minutes away from that, and we'll get in some sort of indication. It wouldn't shock me if media members are at the point, and this is a respectful media corps for the most part, if media members start asking about bigger moves that could be made in the coaching ranks.
Yeah, needless to say, we appreciate, some of you that maybe are new today. To the live formatting. Sarah mentioned that number. 12,000 plus is astronomical. So sorry you're here under these circumstances, but we do appreciate you guys being here, as we do with Super Chat donors that continue to come in with reaction to yesterday. Jason Zarotniak is celebrating 4 months of channel membership with us. He says, watching this team right now is just painful. They are playing without heart or direction. Bobby and Sarah, you are a safe harbor in a torrential storm. How about that for an analogy?
There we go.
Rave is in the house.
He says, we told you, so we told you so. Hollywood, both Marcus fans try to tell y'all, Zach is a cool guy, but not ready. And fire him and fire John, says Rafe.
Captain Hard says, last year the defense didn't get better. We just played bad teams and quarterbacks, and that covered up the reality. Laura is in the house today.
Are you guys concerned about Lamar from the team? What do you mean by that, Laura? Concerned about him from the team? I'm concerned about his hamstring injury for sure.
Follow up right here.
Oh, there is a follow up. What is it?
It's on the screen.
Sorry. There it is. Sorry about that. Sorry, Lamar wanting to go to another team next year. I think we're a few steps away from that. He is under contract for 2 more years. If people wanted to if he and EDC wanted to go back and forth the way Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons did, which I don't think Lamar and EDC are those type of personalities. He is under contract. However, he could refuse to restructure his contract and that would blow things up for sure. So he could use his contract as maybe leverage if he wanted, player personnel moves or coach personnel moves. He certainly has leverage knowing that his contract will shoot up to, I believe, $70 million next year. So he holds a lot of power. That's for sure.
All right, let's get some breaking news on Marlon Humphrey's status here from Ian Rappaport that's just hit the timeline. Free Wi-Fi. We'll come back to you in just a second. This is on Marlon Humphrey's calf that exited him from yesterday's game, and Ian Rappaport of NFL Network noting that he will indeed miss a couple of weeks, or at the very least, he is expected to miss a couple of weeks. NFL insider Ian Rappaport says not as bad as it could have been. All of Baltimore's soft tissue injuries appear to be week to week, so nothing major. But Sarah, probably a post-bye week timeline, if you will, based on this news from Ian Rappaport for Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah, that's the problem is like, sure, if the Ravens were like 3-1 and all of these were like week to week, it's like, okay, they could weather the storm. But when you're already 1-3 and he's saying most of these guys are week to week, the Ravens don't have week to week. It's going to get more dire, which will Steve Bisciotti see this as, oh, well, the injuries are the cause?
Yeah.
Or will he see it as, okay, this is the right time to make a move?
Yeah. Something to watch. Marlon Humphrey, the first of many, Sarah, I'm sure that we'll learn statuses for, or at least to Ian's point, expected statuses for in the coming weeks after yesterday's onslaught of injuries. Free Wi-Fi writes, these guys don't tackle anyone. They swipe at the ball. Whoever takes over will be teaching the basics for the rest of the regular season. Eric Hill.
He says, D, I'm hired. Put me in the game, coach. I'm ready even when I'm not ready. Hashtag Gundry. Hashtag food will be a part of lead therapy.
Eric.
Food is always a part of therapy.
Yeah. Eric is single-handedly taking over our Gundry sponsorship, and I love it.
Yeah, seriously.
Is it Kavan? Kavan? 2K7? What's up? What's up, Kay? He says, hey, Sarah and Bobby, I'm not saying we need a head coaching change, but if it's going to be a change, can somebody get Kirby Smart from Georgia on the phone, please? He's licking his wounds after the Bulldogs loss to the Crimson Tide over the weekend. Reese is in the house, Sarah.
She says, we always get outcoached. Still a fan. Definitely outcoached against the Chiefs. Feels like they've been outcoached in big games, especially in the playoffs.
Love seeing a new Super Chat donor and face pop up. Thanks for being here, Reese. Pablo Colados says, we keep having delay of game penalties and taking all the time in the huddle to call the same predictable plays. Goofiest show on turf. Penalized 6 times yesterday, a couple of which were, to Pablo's point, delay of games, 56 yards they ended up negating. I think one of them was declined at one point, so it might have been more than 6. Anthony 23 with a super chat today. Thanks for being here with us, Anthony. Seamus Murray celebrating 2 months with us, Sarah.
He says, Harbaugh, quote, I don't like our play calling. You are the head coach. It's like saying you didn't like your sub from Subway. You made the sandwich.
There's Subways where you can make it handheld?
Maybe he's thinking an employee at Subway. Maybe he's the owner of Subway.
Quincy West, what's up? QW. Ray had us right week 2. I've never seen Rowe calling which way the defense was going. Ray had a headset on. Give Ray the job. I drove from the SIP to be embarrassed yesterday. It's bad. Appreciate you, Quincy. Larry LJ Johnson here with us today.
So it's LJ. He let you know what his full name was. Okay, it's Larry. He said, it is interesting that not too long ago, there were arguments about the change of philosophy, moving away from a defensive strategic concentration to an offensive one, and here we are now. Well, they definitely have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. They should be playing from an offensive perspective, but it doesn't mean that you go number 32 on defense.
Thanks for the super chat, Larry. DJ Burke says, I'm sick and tired of Roquan, a.k.a. Temu Ray Lewis. Anthony 23 with another.
This defense has no leadership, no defensive game changes. Hashtag Ed Reed, hashtag Ray Lewis, hashtag Terrell Suggs, hashtag Ravens are basic.
Quincy back in the house. Quincy Foreman, what's up, Q? He says, just a thought. Why is next to none of our all-time greatest talking about how John has slowly taken the edge out of the Ravens' philosophy, an aggressive strike first team to a passive gambler? Eric Hill, Sarah, for you.
He says, Gundry, I have a possible commercial idea if you ever need one for an advertisement.
I swear, Brian Wolf and Ivy and everybody on the Gundry team are probably going to reach out to Eric Hill by the time this live stream is over. So, appreciate all the support that you're giving the show and our sponsor. Rye says, why do you guys think that every subsequent Chiefs game Lamar plays in, he looks worse and worse? How can he not recognize those cover zeros? He was off his game yesterday, Sarah. He was clearly uncomfortable in the pocket, indecisive, had happy feet. Ball security was an issue. And, yeah, their whole operation was off. Two delay of games? 2 delay of games?
Yeah.
As much as you want to chalk that up to Arrowhead, 2 delay of games?
The second one, it was almost as if he wasn't even like looking at the clock. Like I went back and watched both of them. The first delay of game, it's like he was like clapping and trying to get Linderbaum to snap the ball, and he didn't. So he had made the change, and he was ready. But maybe that one was more chalked up to the noise in Arrowhead because he was clapping, and then Linderbaum just never snapped it. The second one, Lamar was still like looking around and talking, and it seemed like there was plenty of time, and then it just ran out. So I don't know if Lamar like lost the play clock on that one.
Thanks, Rye. Goose with some Mexican currency, I believe. And he writes, or they write, or she writes, who should replace Harbaugh? Oh, man. I feel like we've covered a bunch of this.
I mean, it would have to be in-house. It'd be interim. It'd be somebody like Pagano. Prior to this week, I said Monken because Monken was having the team put up 40 points per game. So, I mean, there's 2 in-house options.
Yeah.
But long-term, Steve Bisciotti, I was there when they went through the head coaching search for John before when they let go of Brian Billick and ultimately landed on John Harbaugh. It's a robust, intensive search that involves Steve Bisciotti, Ozzie Newsome, Eric DaCosta, everybody in the front office. Everybody goes about it. So they would probably go out and try to find the new up-and-comer. But until then, if it were like an interim, and I don't think Steve Bisciotti is going to make an in-season change at head coach, but those would be the 2 leading guys in my view. It'd be Pagano and then Monken, who we're not happy about with his play calling right now.
Thanks, Goose. Suicide King says, please someone wake me the hell up. Excuse me, heck up. Hashtag unbelievable. And that brings us to patrons. I think you have a couple more quick hits as well. So why don't you cue those up while I get these in here. Alyssa Thomas and Ivan Gunn. Thank you both for believing in what we're building. We appreciate you for being integral members of our community for years running now. So thank you. We appreciate you, Alyssa and Ivan. And this is your monthly shout out. If you guys are interested in joining the Patreon community as well, you can visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. Sarah, what other quick hits before we jump?
I meant to use these during the short yardage conversation that we had about Todd Monken. This is one of those short yardage situations. That's how it ended up. What's crazy is I thought from when I originally saw it, I thought Lamar just ran too fast for Linderbaum, but it looks like Linderbaum is trying to go and get a block for Lamar, but like the defender quickly repositioned himself and is kind of spinning out of it to go meet Lamar elsewhere. And then meanwhile, Lamar starts to take off, like he puts his foot in the ground and he goes to take off. And so it's literally Linderbaum puts his shoulder right on the ball and hits it with force.
It's tough. It's tough look.
And it's like, 3rd and 1, I think, and everybody was calling for more running right there. So that is like symbolic of what feels like the whole season so far, where the Ravens are just killing themselves. Then this I was going to use in short yardage situation again. This man had 4 carries in the first half. Look at Daniel Fa'alele. Now, I'm not saying Daniel didn't have some of those typical screen grabs where he looks like he's looking for work on other times, but look at the lane he opens up for Derrick Henry on this opening drive. I mean, wide open. Derrick Henry didn't have to make a single move. He got a full head of steam ready to go, running from a shotgun position, hands it off. That's Roger Rosengarten on the right, Daniel Fa'alele at the left, and they part the Red Sea, literally, because Kansas City Chiefs are in red jerseys. And this is what Todd Monken abandoned. You finally have Daniel Fa'alele creating lanes. And then Todd says, Let's go pass some more.
It was the most well-scripted start you could ask for. 9 plays, 70 yards, a little bit of everything. Justice Hill fighting for yards, Mark Andrews incorporated, Lamar managing it accordingly, Derrick Henry finding those lanes that Lele and others, as you just mentioned, were opening up, and you're thinking, here we go, we're off to the races, and they're going to have a lot of this to compete, and ultimately it was short-lived. Back to super chats that have come in. Saad Blitz says, not being nostalgic. I agree. We need Ray. We're missing leadership, identity, intensity, and accountability. Ray set the standard, and we need it back. Eric Hill has gifted 5 channel memberships on top of what he's already done so far through almost 2 hours of content. Appreciate you, EH. Sergeant Knight, Sarah.
Sergeant Knight says, stay strong, flock. I'll be watching the chat from afar and will post when I can. 6-month deployment. Oh, wow.
Oh,
I hope there's Wi-Fi. Woo. He literally, so is Sergeant Knight literally a sergeant in the military?
Anything you can share on that, Sergeant, we'd love to display it up on the screen. Thank you for your service and best wishes to you as you gear up for deployment here and serve, I think, our country. So
6-month deployment. That's a sacrifice. Thank you.
Salute to you, man. I think there's 13,000 people that would probably hop on the salute bandwagon right now with us to wish you the best. So thanks for letting us know what's up, and hopefully we'll see you here and there. And there he is, U.S. Air Force Sergeant, 23 years running. How about it? And Jabba wants to know where you're deployed, but you can share as much as you'd like or as little as you'd like, Sergeant Knight. Thank you. Thanks for being here as well. Matter Sergeant, that is. I overlooked that. Matter Sergeant, U.S. Air Force. And partner, I think that brings us to the end of a jam-packed show, 2 hours worth. Again, I know, under these circumstances, you guys don't probably like to hear about, record-breaking stuff, but just to reiterate what Sarah said earlier on, 13,000 plus is certainly a new goal for this show since we've been alive and in existence for the last 4 years. So thank you. We're sorry that you have to be here under these circumstances. We know that a lot of it has to do with your yearning for change, and we sure hope that you get what it is that you're yearning for. Hopefully, before it's too late for this 2025 Ravens team, which right now it kind of seems like they're on the brink of it being too late. Not mathematically, but as we've talked about all throughout the course of this show, based on what they've put on tape and what is reality entering week 5. So thanks to Gumtree, Maryland for the continued support and sponsoring this show. Again, guys, it is the state-of-the-art premier recreational facility that's just down the road from One Winning Drive in Owings Mills, Maryland. And for the next few weeks, code VAULTSIM, that is VAULTSIM, will get you 25% off your simulator rental. It is an unbelievable property, and it's a premier facility. I would love for you guys to go check it out. Sarah, you feel the same, and we appreciate them for the continued support. All that information can be found in the show notes and as a pinned comment right now in the live chat. As always, for our audio only folks, thanks to you guys. All that information can be found in your show description as well. And partner, we're under 30 minutes out from the scheduled time that John Harbaugh will speak with reporters. So you and I will, of course, be back in action tomorrow at 12 noon, and I will probably have a bunch of content coming up later this afternoon on the Bobby Baltimore channel. So looking forward to it. Anything else from you before we jump?
Nope. Ready to go listen to Harbaugh.
All right, that we will. Thanks to all of you for spending part of your days with us. We appreciate you. And as always, if you could on the way out, if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, those free things that go a long way in terms of our channel growth. And that'll allow us to bring you daily, year-round Ravens coverage. We will do exactly that. Coming up tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern. That's Tuesday, September 30th. Until then, for Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We'll catch up with you guys tomorrow, if not before. And as always, Vaultrons, thank you for spending some time with us here inside the Vault. Talk to you soon.